having a look here, you can see that you've got three particular topics, and I think you're going to be pleased. Of course, I think you're going to be pleased about a lot of things, and I tend to be very, very wrong. The first one is write a feature article that examines what mateship means to young Australians. Now that we have actually accidentally been setting ourselves up for that all year. Remember that this is the creating section, so you're doing a feature article on this. You're doing a article or with an interpretive perspective, and you're going to be looking at it from that way. Now, feature article, of course, means that you are going to be writing as though you are addressing an audience. So, mateship means to young Australians. Now, you could write a fluff piece that is all, aren't we great as Australians? God, we're so good. And look, if you do it well enough and you do it with enough affection, that could work well. But we have some other opportunities, things that we could do. What are some beautiful things that we could do perhaps to make that a little grittier, a little bit more sort of like in depth, a little bit more social criticism? What could we do? Yes. Oh. Awesome. I love that. So look from a young woman's perspective. Did someone say women aren't people? Now, notice. Yeah, and that brings in a whole lot of stuff that you can do. You can look at rape culture, cultural misogyny. Yeah, I'm glad. Cultural misogyny, etc. So I will come to you in a minute, person with your hand up. I'm just trying to deal with the way this looks, and I'm fixing my spelling, which will now once again be on YouTube for all of my peers to see. Yes. I do think that that is very interesting perspective for you to take with that. So once that's still looking at number one, so different culture. So can you go into what you mean by that just a little bit more? Okay, so within, so different cult, so different, I'm going to actually call that different groups in Australia, sorry, woo, hang on, who are excluded, or, and there's one, or whose, and I will fix that up, no, that was right the first time, perspective, sorry, whose inclusion, quiet down, is conditional on surrendering their cultural identity. Shh. Quiet down. You're getting loud again. Shush. Look, there's two really beautiful ones, but I would say there's something you need to be very careful of. Remember that young Australians must be considered, must be part of this. So if you were looking at Evan's example there, which is a really good one, particularly since rape culture and misogyny isn't something that everybody necessarily feels emotionally safe enough to write about, and I would never want to put you in a situation where you are writing about something like that. I was just speaking to Ben just then about an excellent movie called Nightingale, which is an absolutely astonishing examination of early Australian racism and misogyny in a really confronting, hyper-realistic way, but also said to him that I can't watch it, even though I know about it and I've read about it and I've got quite a lot of depth about the reason why the filmmaker made it the way they did and why the actors did it the way they did. I can't watch it because I don't feel emotionally safe watching it. I feel that that would be damaging to me. So I don't watch it. So sometimes it's good to have other options. And Evan's one's really good because it gives you an opportunity to write about something that is in depth and worthy on its own. So, but I would say remember looking at it from a young Australian's perspective. Perhaps the idea that now you as Australians are becoming Australia as a country because we're becoming more global. You might be more conscious of the parochial nature of mateship. The idea that, yeah, you can be part of us, you can be part of the crowd, but you have to give up who you are. If you are a Somalian Australian, Asian Australian, if you are a Polish Australian, you can be a mate if you're just like John Smith or Bree Taylor. You know, if you are absolute, someone wrinkled their nose. Does Bree Taylor exist? All right. So I didn't know the word Bree created so much hatred, but now we know. Is that like a young person Karen? So, shh. It's all right. I'm gonna get a Karen haircut now that it exists. It sounds wonderful. Did I give you a lolly? Do you want one? All right. That was a really good example because obviously as a radical feminist as I am, I will tend to move towards that a bit too much. So let's have a look at the second option, which is also a really, really amazing option. Oh, that's too dark. You couldn't possibly be able to. Oh, I don't want to use grey. Grey's so boring. We'll do green for the next one. Oh, that didn't even work. Oh, well, then we're stuck with it. Shh. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, if I drag it across, will it fix? Are you lying? Oh! There we go. All right. Today we wear our children to perceive the world as an endlessly scary place. Using this idea as a central theme, create an interpretive text that reflects on the impact of modern parenting. So here it's you as children looking at adults. I can see some hands up already. You guys have surprisingly strong opinions about this. Yes, Ryan. It's on today's lesson and it's going to be on Moodle. I'm trying to use Moodle more. Yes. I don't know what you mean. Yeah. So you've got to tie that to the idea of modern parenting. So the idea of creating, of concentrating perhaps too much on negative consequences of actions to create a continual anxiety. Is that what you meant? Sort of? Yeah? Is that not what you meant? Yeah? So I'm going to write down exactly what you say. So, but remember, you've got to get to the idea of scary. So how are we going to bring that in? I know how. Do you want me to say? Um, So I reckon that if you added this, that would actually work. So, because remember, you've got to keep cramming. They don't like the cramming? Cramming. There we go. Parents trying to pass on their values onto their kids, but as a result of this frenetic cramming of ideas and behaviours into small people, they are creating anxiety and fear. So yeah, they're trying to do a good thing. They're motivated by good things, but their good thing that they're motivated by doesn't have that result because of the particular way. Yes. Yeah. Hang on just a minute. Okay. Is that sort of what you meant? All right. Hello, yes. Yeah, helicopter parenting. I'm going to put something here down for you. It is something that as... Shh. Guys, quiet down. Silkworms have been reduced to a product to the point where they can't survive outside of an industry. They used to exist as an actual thing of themselves, but now they don't. They're like the banana can't procreate. Yeah? So I look at helicopter parenting, and I must admit I do keep thinking of silkworms. It's the idea that and my own children do it, and I get external pressure to do it as well. Like if when my kids turn about 6, I send them to the park on their own across the road. Now I can actually see them from my balcony, but they don't know that. But when I did that, I still got a lot of backlash from people. How can you send a 6-year-old to the park on the road? It's literally one road in between my house and the play equipment. So not only not only do we have helicopter parenting, which is parents just running in, fixing things, we have situations now where people who have left year 12 apply for a job and their mum comes with them to the interview. That is a real thing that happens. My stepbrother, he used to run an event company, and he actually showed me a letter from a parent that she had written applying for the job for her son. My children are scared to go to a shopkeeper on their own and pay for their own things because they have been told so strongly that the world is full of people who will get them. Shh. And if a parent doesn't do those things, when I was my kids' age, I used to go and play in the roofs of houses being constructed in my area. I'm not saying that's great. I used to go down to the swamp, and I spent a whole day with my brother on a raft that we had stolen from a local farmers market thing, going back and forth across Lake Gulalau over and over again. My children are scared to go to the park on their own. I have to make it actually something that they do. They're scared to walk around the street on their own. And they're not alone. I never see children on their own anymore. And if you start to become conscious of it, you're going to realize it's true. You will see a whole lot of parents walking their children to places, walking them back. I didn't know it was such a thing until my kids started to go to children's parties. People don't leave their kids at children's parties anymore. They stay. Yeah. Shh. Quiet down. Shh. Quiet down. Now, I will come to you in a minute, I promise. Quiet down. Shh. Now, obviously, this is only one example of one person's observations, but I think when you become more is able to understand that some of you parents want to have surveillance in classrooms so they can stop in by through the day and look. And some schools in Europe have it. Shh. So my thing is that hyper parent, that hypervigilism creates two problems in my mind. One, your children don't develop the skills that come through mistakes and bad experience that they need to become resilient. And two, it means your parents radically overinvest in your future. If you put that amount of effort into something, you feel like you own it. Yeah? Yeah, your parents own you. That's different. All right, so you were going to say? Yeah. Absolutely. We always, in actual fact, crime has gone down, but you wouldn't know it. So yeah, pretty, and And like if your car gets stolen with your child in the back seat because you've ducked into the petrol station to pay, you are literally 3 to 4 meters away, maybe 10 meters away. But if you watch the comments under the news things, will go, "What was the mother doing? What was the mother doing?" Well, the mother was a victim of a crime. If you've ever tried to take a 2-year-old out of a car seat and put it back in, if your kid's asleep, you will murder somebody who tries to wake that child up. And I would defy any parent to say they haven't, but you are correct. The instantness of it too, and the ubiquitous coverage means that you are correct. We have now been given the impression that we are like constantly protecting our children. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Though I wish my kids would take a few more risks. I mean, not necessarily breaking. Oh, sorry. I don't teach sport. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Oh, dude, you're just gonna have to walk with that one. Yeah. Shh. I am not accurate in throwing. Sorry. We better circle back. We better circle back to what you said. Shh. I would say that because social attitudes changed, we know what we got away with as kids for sure. I mean, I've already told you just a few things that now, with the passage of times, I can no longer get in trouble for. Also, I think my dad knows. But now, if you did those things, your parent would suffer social scrutiny for them, and we are aware of that. Facebook means that I am constantly scrutinized. Like, if I put up that one of my kids is up late at night because they're sick, I will get a phone call from 3 different relatives telling me, what I should do, suggesting perhaps passive aggressively that I should feed them meat, that kind of thing. Um, so we are, as parents, we are also continuously surveilled. You had a question? Absolutely, it is. Yeah, we if our every action is judged. And people say, well, get off of social media. But that's, first of all, so we are social creatures, human beings, and we enjoy social interaction. And that is our main form of social interaction. Human beings are group animals. And secondly, through your job, through networking, if you do remove yourself from social media entirely, you're also removing yourself from an enormous support network. So people obviously are a little bit concerned about that removal, but it's also new and we don't know how to protect ourselves. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but it's the same with toxic friendships of any kind, isn't it? Yeah, I do find that people don't seem to understand they are able to block people, but I always sort of go. Someone says, oh, this person's always criticizing my parenting or my children. I'm going, you're aware you can actually block. Like block. But that's another thing. That's too much time on one question, and we don't have much time left. So let's go to the third. The kids are okay. How today's teenagers are equipped to thrive in post-pandemic world. Now, you might notice that I've decided to keep a question that seems very, very, very similar to the one above, but it's because I wanted to sort of force you to have at least one positive option. I don't want you to always spend your time in this classroom sort of like slitting your wrists and dancing in the blood. I don't want it to always be, let's talk about why we need to, feel sad and sit at home. This one actually is positioning you to have a positive, inspirational mindset, which I would actually direct some of you to think about. If you're starting to feel a bit down, if you're starting to feel a little bit introspective, if you're starting to feel a little anxious about your world, I would direct you to number 3 for your own mental well-being, your own emotional well-being, because it does ask you to do that mindfulness activity of concentrating on the positive. If you are at that stage, number 3 might be safest for you. So we look at number 3. The kids are okay. Today's teenagers are equipped with to survive in a post-pandemic world. So of course you've got to mention C9, C19. Was it C19? Yeah, you've got to do C19. It is part of the question. But it doesn't have to be your focus because it's talking about you being equipped. So we're talking emotionally, socially. We can bring in technology. Technology and socially means okay, all right. This is going to be very inspirational and optimistic. Yeah, this one is the good vibes one. This is the one that if you write it and you read it, you should feel good. But it has to be fact-based, of course. So, shh. Anyone want to add anything to the kids are okay? No? Anyone? I would suggest, yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. You can talk about, strong focus on family in Australian society. Um, you can even look at auntie and uncle culture. Shh. My children have people who they call auntie and uncle. They're not biological, but they've been my friends for like 20, 30 years, these people, and it's a strong, yeah, that's it. That's it. And these aren't just people you call auntie and uncle, these are people who you go spend holidays with and things like that. Yes. Shh. Quiet down. Students, please don't make it so I have to edit out lots of stuff. Laura and Beth. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You can go about its strengthened family unit. Some people it may have done the opposite, but that isn't what this one's about. Shh. Okay. All right, good. So I think we've got enough on that. So let's have a look at the structure. Shh. Okay. Yeah. Oh, actually, you're right. I should look at that first. So having a look here. Shh. Guys, quiet down. This is in class Friday. This is your 1 week in advance. You're given the 60 minutes. So I'm going to wait 10 minutes and then I'm going to start. If you're not here on time, I am very sorry, but that is the time that you are given. You get 1 page A4 single-sided handwritten notes. Notice the word handwritten. They're dictating that so you don't do size 6, whole essay. And I've got to tell you, you can't turn up with your pre-written feature article. It has to actually be notes, and it can't just be a feature article written very, very small in with little dots next to them. That's also, yeah, no, it has to be. So you're looking at things like you're trying to make it so that you know what your headline's going to be, make it so that you know what your title's going to be, make it so that you know what your opening or lead paragraph is going to be, look at whether you're going to use an anecdote, what sort of imagery you're going to use. You might then for paragraph 2 have a couple of notes on how you're going to build to lead into a paragraph from your first audience, first argument, like what kind of language you're going to use, what sort of attitude you're going to develop through your tone. You might have some quotes from your research at that point. Remember, you need to both connect with your audience and convince them that you're credible. You need your paragraph 3 where you have more on your idea on it. You need to be looking at, if you used quotes in the first one, you might want to have some statistical information. You might want to allude to other things that they know. So I'd go for having a 4th paragraph if you can, but if you can't, that's okay. And don't forget, in your conclusion, you should remind the reader of the article's main idea. You should suggest an appropriate course of action. You should encourage a change of attitude or opinion and link back with a reference to an anecdote or rephrasing of your central argument to try and create that clinching ending. Now don't worry, when I put this up, I'm going to actually do a quick little note on that structure as well and put that as a panel at the end, because I'm clearly going to have to edit a lot of stuff out because some people were being a little naughty through some of this. It may not be up tonight, but it will be up by Monday. Okay, now do we have any questions on this assessment for Friday? Yes. I want you to do that. I want you to have worked out clever phrasings with particular impact, the use of tone, the use of alliteration, assonance, symbolism, imagery, that kind of stuff. You just can't have your whole paragraph there. I won't allow that. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Fly, be free. Alright guys, as promised, here is one option for setting out your feature article. Now I ripped this off Miss Evans and I will put her more extended version up on my Moodle later for you to look at, but this is just a brief overview. So you'll need a headline. Be clever and set the tone. You think about play on words, puns, allusions. All of those are great, but don't sacrifice your position for it. Don't be so clever that it doesn't actually lend itself to the kind of tone and position that you're setting. Underneath, have some kind of very short, maybe 1 or 2 sentence subheading using emotive words and other devices to set up the tone and engage your audience. You're trying to hook your reader, and don't forget that this is kind of a journalistic style of text, so credit yourself as the reporter. So go, investigation by, Rebecca Lundy, that sort of thing. Now I'm going to be talking about this in terms of paragraphs just because that's more convenient to you in an exam or in class situation. But don't forget that this style of writing will allow you to use standalone sentences or words just to give more impact, and if you feel like doing some variation, that's fine, but for marking purposes you need like at least 3 main body paragraphs with enough meat in them for you to demonstrate your skill, introduction, conclusion. So let's go through that. So your opening or lead paragraph should be short and sharp. You're introducing the main idea and setting the tone. Allude to the 3 arguments you'll use to support your ideas, but don't start arguing them, because that is taking away from time you have for the main body, and it doesn't actually work very well in terms of a feature article or any. Do not forget that this is not an essay. You're a writer. Use emotive, figurative, descriptive language, all of the others. You are crafting a response. You are crafting a style and a voice for your persona. So you need to get that consistently under control. You're going to be using first person point of view. It's a feature of feature articles and interpretive writing, this to use sort of I and have an actual writer narrating. Doesn't mean you're going to use the word I all the time, but I should have a very clearly identifiable writer character. The next paragraph would be what you would normally think of as your main body paragraph. You're drawing them in. You might want to show some relevance to them. If it's an Australian audience or a parent audience, or, make sure that your point is kind of including them in some way, or is made to seem that they should care about it in some way. You don't want to lose your audience. You're going to maintain the tone and voice that you're set, and your attitude to be really clear through your choice of language. And again, I'm going to keep warning you about this. It's not an essay. Use your writing skills, informative language, jargon, tricolon, emotive language. Maintain your credibility by using statistics, case studies, etc. What you would normally think about as your second main body paragraph, you can go a little bit deeper here. You can get a little bit more challenging for them. Maintain, though, again, your tone and your attitude. Maintain the style that you've chosen to write in and the voice you've chosen to write in. And remember, don't give up your credibility. I'm supposed to be being convinced of something. I'm supposed to believe that you are an authority, and I need to see evidence of your research to really feel that. For your last idea, your third main body paragraph, if we would have talked about it before, you've got them at this stage, so you can push them a little bit if you want. You can bring up something that might be slightly unpalatable, or something that's against dominant values and attitudes and ideas, but be a bit careful. You don't want to lose them. You again, though, you're going to maintain your tone, you're going to maintain your voice, you're going to maintain your use of skills, you're going to be credible. You don't want to lose them at this point. Now, if you're feeling really confident and you've got a bit of extra time, it's a good option to put in the counter arguments, the people who argue against you and what they say. You've got to use it with care, because what you don't want to do is to say everything I've said before is not true. Instead, you want to say some people say this and they're wrong. Obviously not writing it like that. So you acknowledge their view, but you debunk it with facts. You undermine it with logic, with the way that you construct it and represent their view. This actually makes you seem more credible, because it shows that you've gone through a self-reflective process to look at a wider view than just your own opinion to come to the conclusions that you do. But again, in time conditions, this could be problematic for you to fit in. So really only do it if you've got control of those sort of things, the timing. And then you come to the final part where you conclude it, you wrap it up. You've got to leave an impression. This is the last thing that your reader will see before they walk away from your piece. What are they left with thinking? You've got to remind them of your purpose, and depending upon how persuasive or interpretive your approach is, you might want a strong call to action, and I've got that incorrectly spelled. There we go. Or a more introspective, reflective one, and rhetorical questions and thoughtful quotes can actually be quite useful, that as can quite sort of darkly threatening sort of warning type sort of phrasing that can actually work quite well too. So you've got to really decide, is this like a persuasive version of the feature, or is it a more interpretive, introspective one? And that's going to affect the kind of ending that you have, because if it was an argument, if it was something to convince somebody of, you really need to have some sort of action that you want them to take or idea you want them to embrace. All right.